Welcome back. In the second tutorial, we'll be discussing plagiarism. First off, it's important to know where to look for reliable resources. Reliable resources can be found in physical books and databases. Both of these information types can be found through your library. Google Scholar is another place you can use to start your research online, but please note that Google Scholar is a different search engine than the normal Google search. So do not mistake a normal Google search for a Google Scholar search. And of course, there's always going to your local library. This could be your school library, the public library, or a library at a college or university. Published hard copy books are more often than not considered factual, and you can use that information for research projects. Let's go over the definition of references and resources. You'll see these words often, and sometimes they're simply called sources. These are the books, articles, newspapers, or journals that you find your information in. You will always need to show where you found your information by using a reference page and showing your sources. What is plagiarism? Webster's New World Dictionary defines plagiarize as to take ideas, writing, etc. from another and pass them off as one's own. I used a source here. I used a dictionary that I own and a direct quote from the definition of that word here on the slide. If I hadn't used quotations, these, and had not written exactly where the words came from, Webster's New World Dictionary, page 492, that would have been plagiarism. The same can be said about any sort of fact that you find and want to use. To show that the information you're using isn't made up, aka that it's fact and not fiction, you need to show where you found the information that you're claiming is true. That way, your teacher can check and make sure that you're using the right sources. You can do two things when using a resource. First off, you can quote it like I did on the last page. To do this, you use a direct quote, word for word, from your source. You place that quote in quotation marks, and then you add the page number to show where you found it. In this example, Webster's New World Dictionary is the source. I used quotation marks around the direct quote that I took, and I ended with the page number, which is 492. You can also paraphrase. This means to take someone else's idea, but to write it in your own words. You don't have to put a quotation mark around this idea, but you do have to mark where you found the information in parentheses after you have rewritten the idea. For example, if I were to paraphrase the definition of plagiarize directly from my Webster's dictionary, I could show it like this slide. Plagiarism, or plagiarize. To use someone else's exact words and claim them to be your own when stating facts. Here, these words are my own, but I made sure to write Webster's at the end to show that the original information came from another place. Down at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a lot of information that will give your teacher the exact location of where you found your information so they can double check. This is what you would put on your reference list at the end of your paper or project. Plagiarism itself is taken very seriously in college. Even if you don't mean to, you could plagiarize in a paper and there could be consequences. Some colleges will mark down points, and sometimes it can be as serious as a demerit or a suspension, especially if it's repeated. So to avoid this, knowing where your information is coming from is very important. There are ways to mark down your resources and references in something called a citation. And that citation, for example, is Webster's 2013 between these parentheses, and then this cited reference at the bottom of the page. I won't go too deeply into how to cite and use citations, but there are resources that you can find on the surrounding web page that will be helpful if you ever need to do citations for a paper or if you have any questions.